back to Shonen Archive. I'm Wokey, and I'm here alone. What's Shonen Archive? I'm glad you asked. Shonen Archive is a series in which me and Zenrod have decided to dedicate our entire lives to watching every single Shonen Jump anime that is available to us, hopefully in English, though I am slowly learning Japanese, so maybe one day I'll be able to just see those series too. And we plan to do this until the end of the earth, where one of us goes away, whichever one of it happens, meaning beyond the grave. Currently, my co-host here is indisposed, so I'm continuing on Gintama by myself as we continue to march forward. Our main series that we go through is Gintama, but we have a bunch of other ones, such as JJK, which I've been meaning to go to because they did just release 2 episodes for it. But it's going to take me a while to get through to get to them eventually. And yeah, that's Shonen Archive. Thank you very much. So what are we doing for today's episode? We're going to be talking about episodes... Oh, before I begin, though, I wanted to talk about, because I wanted to bring it up. Gintama was added to Netflix, which is pretty crazy. That should be pretty good at getting more people to see Gintama, because Netflix... I know it sounds weird because it's like, oh, well, all of Gintama is currently on Crunchyroll. Why don't you just go there? Thing is that most average people don't want to go to an anime specific thingy to go watch anime, but some of them will watch it if it's just like randomly on a Netflix or something. And in this case, the first season of Gintama is on there, so it's only like the first 24 episodes or so. I went to go check to see if I could move off from Crunchyroll onto Netflix potentially, but nah, it isn't. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's a start. Slow start, but it is a start. Hopefully they'll eventually get to the point where they'll be able to add in all the movies and all the stuff that isn't also on Crunchyroll at the moment, such as the Love Potion arc, which I had to go look for, and some of the other specials. But I wanted to bring it up just at the start to say, like, oh, yo, that's crazy. But what we're going to be talking about today is episodes 290, which is the Kaientai arc, and then also 2 episodes 292 and 293, which are 2 separate episodes. And that's what we're going to be covering today. So, without further ado, let us begin talking about it, and we'll start with episode 290, which is called Always Open Bags Like They Have 50 million in them. So the plot goes is that Sakamoto and Mutsu are talking in a restaurant on another planet. Sakamoto decides that he's going to he's selling to his person what he believes is going to be the next fad, which is a bag that can hold 50 million yen. But in reality, it doesn't really do any of the things it mentions. It doesn't even hold 50 million yen. So Mutsu doesn't believe that it's going to be able to sell, but Sakamoto believes that it will be able to make its money back. And then when they get to Earth, it's revealed that it ran at a complete loss. And he decides to give all the excess bags over to the hostess girls. And while he's doing that, Mutsu finds him and puts him in a bag and carries him off the sea. And they said they're going to use his life insurance to get them out of debt. And then it's also revealed that Gintoki was the one that ratted him out for the insurance money as well, so he's also playing in it. So then they go to a bar, so both Mutsu and Gintoki share a drink and start talking about stuff and how they met Sakamoto. A lot of the episode is like this episode and the next one I kind of like interstitials of showing the backstory of how they met together while also going in like it's being told a story. Gintoki starts by saying how he met him was during the Joey Wars. Joey War? No. Joey. Yeah. Someone most recently told me how to pronounce the guy because it's like Aoi. So Joey War. It sounds like I'm not saying it right. I'm trying my best here. Anyway, Sakamoto was sent by his merchant family to participate in the army, and he meets Gintoki, Takatsuji, and Katsura, who are all waiting for him. He makes a bad first impression by vomiting on every single one of them, but he said that he was able to help out the Joy by raising funds and getting weapons made for the men and doing all that kind of stuff. Mutsu starts talking bad about him because he says, I bet this is where we learn. What he says a lot through the episodes is being able to pick up a pebble and kind of keeping it on hand all the time. And she says that bad habit started from his time in the war and why he's so going into the habit of like trying to sell unprofitable goods, because that's what he was basically doing in the war. And then after Sakamoto left for the war, Mutsu finds him floating out to sea. He was after he was tricked and abandoned by some shady dealers, and that's when they pick him up, and it finds out that she was aboard a space pirate ship and was a slaver called the Shidori. And they pick him up, and they said that he's basically going to be a slave there too. But she also said that the way that they were able to one of the things that they did is that he eventually kind of bought the ship and everything along on him. Mutsu's father was the leader of the Shidori and wants Mutsu to take over the family business, and then Sakamoto throws up all over the commander of the ship and says that he will buy the fleet and the slaves as well. As they get back to it, Sakamoto is in the water just like he was in the past, and he gets taken over by the people who were the dudes they left behind on the Shidori, along with the commander, who had his face vomited so you couldn't see him, and then when he meets him again, he vomits all over his face again so that you can't see any of it. They demand that they give back the Kaientai along with everything on it as well. And then when the Kaientai show up, because someone warns Mutsu that he's been kidnapped, they fire upon him, and that they use that as a distraction as Mutsu and Gintoki go to secretly board the ship and go save him. And then as they're going to go do that, they show some more of the past, which is Mutsu kind of getting along with Sakamoto as he starts to talk with the other slaves. As he starts like trading around with them, Sakamoto offers wine to the slaves, and he gets not tricked, but like convinced into giving up his wine that he smuggled in to an old lady for a bunch of radishes. And she sees that when you do this, trades this way, you can bring a smile to someone's face. And she always believed that business can only ever be one thing, which is exploiting people and taking things away from them. And so Sakamoto says that that's not 100% true. You know, there's other ways that you can do it, and you can do it in the trade business, and you can actually touch people's life if you so choose to act that way instead of acting like the other way. And they kind of start to see that, she starts to see that, like, yeah, her life kind of sucks as the life she has to lead because they want them to. She ends up doing a trade later on where he's looking to trade in a pebble because he's obviously already traded in his wine and everything to the old lady for some more food, and it doesn't work out because she needs a very specific. And then for some reason he's about to go take off his pants, which I assume was to sexually harass this old woman as a joke, but he gets stopped by being stabbed. But the old lady says, like, oh no, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And when she does that, she's able to see that after doing a trade for the first time in her life, she actually is able to kind of make people happy. And then not long after that, she hears that her father has died, and that the chief that works with her is going to plan to kill all the slaves and her and take over the boat. And then she goes to Sakamoto and says, you guys are going to have to escape. I'm going to basically die. She doesn't say I'm basically going to die, but she says, you guys need to escape out of here. There's no escape for me, and I'm going in. And that's where the episode ends. And that is episode 290. So how did I end up feeling about it? Well, let me see here. There's some funny bits here. It was nice to hear a little bit more of the backstory of characters that are always in the OPA. Oh, wait, I forgot to mention. Because it's not going to be here for much longer, but in the ED of Sadaharu running for the sky, he sees the Kappa that they always see. Now, what is the name of the Kappa? Because I don't remember, but let me quickly go in here and type in Kappa. I remembered him because I remember the story and stuff like that, but it's been so long. Ibana, there you go. It was Ibana that they see up in the sky as they're going through it. I really liked the backstory for Mutsu and Sakamoto, the way that they kind of work in a lot of Sakamoto's dealings of, obviously he's not a direct one-to-one of the actual historical person of Sakamoto, but he shares a couple of similarities such as the trading business and stuff like that. He also, there is the hostess bar, the girl that he constantly is harassing because he loves her the most is Oryu, which is of course also tied to Sakamoto, which I always get a kick out of that as a very nice like look towards it. But I like hearing the backstory of a lot of them. I think this is the first time that they ever say his nickname while he was with the Joy Rebels, which was the dragon of Katsuhara Hama. I also like that beginning scene because it was actually really nice to see like how they interacted before the break, which is seeing Takatsuji actually be friendly with Gintoki and Katsura and kind of have that relationship with them. There was a really good Katsura bit where they're like saying, "What is it?" Because they're going to the Katsurahara. So of course Katsura says, "I'm not Katsurahama, I'm Katsura." He's like, "I wasn't talking about you," which I thought was a very good bit. I thought it was very funny. I kind of like the beginning setup here of picking up pebbles and like getting used to them kind of that way. It ends up kind of playing into the next episode of how it kind of ends up and how it kind of goes from there. I also think it's very interesting to kind of frame it and in terms of trading, because I don't know, this is a very like precocious thing to talk about because it's like the trading system that he's speaking out of, I guess in general, is a very hard thing I think to kind of wrap your mind around when you've been living in the current century we have, where a lot of capitalist stuff kind of just like gets on your nerves of it. As like, nah, I don't really believe that for the most part a lot of the people here are here to bring smiles to their faces. They're actually here to extort money from us in any kind of way, shape, or form. But he kind of goes back to a simpler time, a simple idea of a trade. And the only way I know that this still kind of exists in the world. I know it's tough to believe, but I know it kind of still exists. And the only reason I know is that in card games, there are still people who are willing to do trades that they know one of it is not mutual beneficial to one of them, but they know that the other person really wants it, and they're kind of willing to relent and say, all right, I still want this. Obviously, it's not in terms of numerical reasons. It doesn't compare to the two, but if this makes you happy, I'm saying go for it. And I do remember that feeling because I've definitely been a part of trades like that, and I've done trades like that. Where I was the one receiving the card that was more money and stuff like that, and also ones where I received less money and stuff like that, and I think it always does feel pretty good. The problem is when there's a lot of like too much money being put onto stuff, that's when it can kind of be corrupted and kind of be like, okay, well, I want the exact money dealing, or someone who's only always looking for the uptrade. Like, as you see a lot of people who kind of go into, you see it all over, unfortunately, with card, just to keep in with card games, you see it all over the time where it's like the Hololive card game, for example. Me and my brother like to keep in track of a lot of the ongoing prices, and for a lot of the cards, some of them are like, no, this Suicide Cheer is $75, when at a point it was only like 20 compared to the others, but then people started buying them knowing that specifically people wanted them for her only, and it resulted in like this huge markup, and now it's like insanely hard to find out. And these kind of like, I don't know, it always feels really bad. So before I get lost in it, what I'm saying here is capitalism ruins everything, but I like the heart in which he's going for, and I understand that style of trading where both people, it is possible to do a trade in which both people are happy, even though one person is not getting the exact same style of deal of it. But when you don't look at it that way and you see the happiness that it brings when you try and introduce something into someone else's life, I think there's still a lot of merit in that. And I like that he's kind of like all for that. Some other things that are pretty funny is when it reveals that Mutsu is a pirate and also not human. He's like, don't you have a Tosa accent? What do you mean you're not human? She's like, oh no, I picked it all from him, which I thought was very funny. It was such a like, what the fuck do you mean that you're an alien with a Tosa accent? How does that happen? This actually plays into something later on, which is of the reveal of what kind of alien she actually is, which it made 100% sense once they said it, and I could not believe I didn't pick it up anytime sooner, but it was a pretty good reveal there. And there's also a lot of vomiting in this episode, which the vomiting was okay. I like there's a pit where he's vomiting. He's like, oh my god, there's an airbag right here. And he opens up the guy's pants and just vomits directly into his dick. Like, that is a unfortunate situation to be in for sure. Anyway, let's finish off this arc and go on to the next episode, which is episode 291, which is titled Always Leave Enough Room for Pebbles in Your Bag. Alright, so we continue back to where we left off, which is during the flashback. She gets cornered by a bunch of the pirates, and Mutsu wonders why she kind of ended up deciding to save the slaves, and concludes that it was simply because she's a pirate's daughter and wanted to do a real trade for once in her life. Back in the present, Gintoki is with Mutsu, and he's complaining to her about like leaving a bunch of change behind, and Mutsu says that she'll collect them all this time. And when the two decides to go separate to go look for Sakamoto, it turns out there's a trap, and they get separated into two groups. And then we go back to the past where Mutsu stands on a plank getting ready to go off of it like you would expect a pirate to do. And the other commander guy, which I don't think he has a name other than no face, he doesn't have a face. He says he compliments her for being so calm right before she's about to be executed. And she says, like, I've been ready to die because I'm just a pirate, so who cares about me? And he suggests, the other guy says that she's ready to die just for, oh, give me a sec, because my cat Lucifer wants to be let in, finally. All right, Lucifer's now in. Anyway, back to where the episode goes. So yeah, Sakamoto, they revealed to him that he didn't escape, and he's all tied up and beaten. And Sakamoto explains that he stayed behind for the same reason as she did, which is to help the slaves escape. And then that's when the commander guy reveals that they didn't fall for it, and they shoot down the escape pods that they were planning to use with the slaves, so assuming that they all died. And then we go back to the present where Mutsu is being dragged in front of Sakamoto, and the commander guy is mocking him, saying like, man, I can't believe the same thing happened to you guys. We got you the same way we did 10 years ago. And he also starts blaming Sakamoto for saying, you're the reason that Mutsu turned on us, and he gets ready to go kill her, but then Sakamoto headbutts him and then tells him that it was the commander who kind of discarded her first, and that he refuses to trade with anyone that would discard their comrades. And then we go back to the past when they're facing their death, that Mutsu starts to think about her failure as a traitor. But Sakamoto says that she was a good trader, and he did say that in his statement that he was going to buy the ship and all the slaves, and that also includes Mutsu in that deal. Then we go back to the present, and it turns out that the pirates have been knocked out by Mutsu and a disguised Gintoki, because he was the guy who was pretending to drag her in. And then we go back to the past where it reveals that the Chidori ships had turned against the main ship, and because the slaves had managed to take over the control of all the ships, and Sakamoto and Mutsu are then able to free themselves and start fighting all the pirates, which goes back into the present where Mutsu is also destroying the pirates. And then that's when Gintoki starts to see her fight style, and then he realizes that she is a Yato, and he goes like, oh my god, you're literally a Yato. And then he says, Sakamoto, did you know that? And Sakamoto's like, I had no idea what that was. I still have no idea what that is. And this is when they said that, I said, that explains why she's always wearing that trying to keep the sun off of her, and also the hair. She really does look a lot like Kagura. And just like Kagura, she's able to put on an accent that does not belong to her, even though she's an alien. She takes that accent. So all the signs were there, but it is very funny to be like, oh yeah, that makes 100% sense now that you mention it. It's silly for me to not have noticed it until just now and just assume that she was human. Anyway, the commander guy starts to try to escape by escape pod, and ends up Mutsu throws Gintoki and Sakamoto headfirst into the gun and stops the pod one-handed. And the commander asks why she decided to work under Sakamoto as a traitor instead of just becoming a powerful pirate. And she says that working with the Kaientai fleet, made up of slaves of the Chidori, cleansed her debts and sins. And she said, like, he was trying to make it seem like, do you owe something to him? She's like, I don't know a damn thing about it. She adds that she was not a pebble that Sakamoto had picked up, but that she was actually the one who found a big pile of gems, which is in Sakamoto and the Kaientai itself. And then she punches the commander straight out the fucking pod, one fist. It's insane. And then we get back to later in the night where the Kaientai are celebrating with Mutsu, and also them being happy that they have basically stolen a new ship again. Gintoki is completely bandaged. And when she punches the other guy, she's like, oh man, I really wanted to see your face, but there's like a rated 18 because it's too gnarly what they've done to his face. But they go back to a bandaged Gintoki and Sakamoto, who are basically have their face censored exactly like that guy, because they're like, they're like, everyone was able to be get off the ship completely safe, and they're like, not everyone, man. Our faces are completely messed up. And so Gintoki tells Sakamoto that he's kind of surprised that Shidori is just made up of slaves. And then Sakamoto says that he does that because it kind of gives them freedom, he gives them room, he gives them board, and then he doesn't have to really pay all that much in labor costs. And Gintoki says, like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna choose to believe that instead of the other thing that would have been that you did this for a girl, even though I know you would never admit that. And then Gintoki says, I'm gonna send my invoice to you, and he says, like, and I'm gonna believe that you did this all for that, and you don't want to just admit that you did all this just to help one girl as well. And we go back to the past where Mutsu is wondering if they're any better than the pirates, and then Sakamoto responds that they're basically the same, but in this case they're pirates for pleasure, which is where Kaientai gets their name, which I'll talk a little bit more in a little bit about that, because I thought it was really nice to figure out of it. In the present, the Kaientai begin to take off, and Yorizoya receive a payment from them, which is a bunch of pickled radish in a $50 million yen bag, and they get really annoyed because they thought that it was going to be 50 million yen, but it wasn't. Even though he's annoyed with it, he chooses to eat the radishes anyway. And then they also, during the end credits, they start to talk about, like, oh yeah, we're back for a new season, but they're treating it like oh yeah, we're back for a new season, yay. Yay. They're not super excited about it because they're like, man, it doesn't mean anything. And then they say, like, we have to do something big. They told us that we have to try to do something big. So they try and have a talk show, and the first talk show, they have a segment which is they're like trying to recap stuff, but don't make it too obvious because fans don't like recap episodes. So they have Gintoki, Ginko, and Hijikata as Gintoki, and then Hijikata says, like, this is, first of all, annoying. This is just three me's, and it ends up with all of them fighting each other, and then they take them away, and then they try and do a second one, and this time they bring in Gaia, Mash, and Ortega, which are the Gundam pilots from the original Mobile Suit Gundam, which I think make the TriStar, if I remember right. It's like the duo that always appears in a lot of Gundam series. They're like fan favorites, even though they all always die whenever they appear. And then for the last recap, they have Sadaharu, Dozamon, and Gorilla Hideyoshi talk to each other, and it's completely unintelligible. And then they're also annoyed because Doizamon is only talking like a cat when he clearly has a part of Gintoki's soul, so he should be able to talk. And then they say, ah, screw it. And then they play a 30-second recap and say, thank you for watching Gintama. And they'll also say that next episode there's going to be a new OP and ED for the anime going forward, which I'll talk about when I get there soon. So that was episode 291, and that is also the ending of the Kaientai arc. So how did I feel about it? Well, I thought it was a very nice little arc dedicated to two characters. I think Kagura talks about it because she's like, this is annoying because two characters who only show up in the OP and ED, they wasted 2 episodes on them. Which is funny because it is kind of true, but I did like hearing a little bit about them. Some stuff that was like confirmed that I should have been paying attention to the entire time, such as her being a Yado. The other thing that I realized was, give me a sec. Okay, I'm back. The other thing I really liked was the kind of like setup of like, why would Mutsu really, like, even though it was kind of framed at the beginning, it's like, oh, this is going to be a big thing about Sakamoto, but it wasn't really. It was really more about Mutsu, and I think it was a good way to kind of like size him up, and it was a good way to build her up, because it does kind of explain why someone so serious a lot of the time would put up with someone that is like him, basically, like Sakamoto, who's always like, he has, they kind of go into it a little bit where he's like not the greatest businessman in the world. He's a trader, in terms of trading goods, and the way he chooses to trade goods is not a way that would make anybody a lot of money. He does it on the whims a lot of the time. He's doing it in terms of like looking for like happiness or stuff like that, which is not a way that most people would do it, and most people would likely kind of back off of him if they decided to go that way. But by framing it in such a way that she's like, I was on the other side, where I was basically someone who like took people for money, the slaves, and then once they became inconvenient, they were going to kill them. Like I was going to be one of those people, and she traded in misery as opposed to trading in happiness. And the idea of someone being like exposing them to like their first ever like idea of like there is a way to live life in such a way that you can bring happiness. You don't always have to. There is a way to conduct business in such a way that it doesn't leave you always completely fucking busted. Like there has to be the idea of like a deal is that one person has to always be on top of the other, but this idea of like there can be a coexistence between the two where both sides can be happy with what they have and things like that is like understandable why she would want to be there, especially when she has been put into this specific race that is also like very pirate heavy and is looking for like I guess more in life when life itself is not really offering them all that much because of the way they are viewed and stuff. So I thought that was really good. I like seeing more Sakamoto. It's always really nice to see Sakamoto. He's such a silly little dude, but I really do like him a whole bunch. Oh, I forgot to say this in the ED because this is the last of them. The last thing Sadaharu sees in the sky, I could not remember the name of it, but it is the robot from the Elizabeth arc when they were in with Darth Vader and all that stuff. It was the Gundam thing with a tie. I remembered that. I like the way that Sakamoto and Gintoki are exactly the same. They both kind of have the same idea of like they do this for the help of the people, and they hide their actions in the way to say like, oh no, I'm fulfilling a business. They both end up doing the same thing, which is that Gintoki runs a business which is odd jobs, and he says like, no, I need to be paid for my services, but he was really doing it for the good of the people, but he can never truly admit that to everyone because I think people will always be wary of people who always say that they were always here for the common good. But it's easier to say you're doing this when you're doing it for the money because people will always understand. I know it's kind of fucked up to say this now that I say it out loud, that people who say I'm here to perform a service will believe you that you're going to help them because you're paying them, as opposed to people who say that I'm always here to help. It makes the people a little bit wary, saying, are you really here to help? I know you have an ulterior motive to what you do. But if you present yourself as someone who is always having an ulterior motive, then you can act the way that they do, which is doing things for the benefit of others, and you can just pretend that you're not doing it for them. So I really like that. I thought it was, again, like I said, a very nice 2-episode arc. Mutsu kicked a lot of ass. I like when they reveal she's a Gato and you immediately know, oh, these people are completely fucked. There is like no way these pirates stand a fucking chance against her at all. That's really good. And then finally, the thing I want to talk about was Kaientai. So they call themselves the Kairits at one point because they use the kanji, and I wanted to figure out why, because I was like, this has to relate to their name. So the Kai kanji that they use stands for like pleasure, delight, enjoyment, and then the Zoku that they use, it means thief. So that's why they mean Kairits. They are those who steal for the they are like thieves themselves, but they do it for delight or the enjoyment. They're like a more happy based version of it. And then when they get to the Kaientai, so obviously Kai means pleasure, delight, enjoyment, and then the Ian stands for in the name support, and then Tai at the end means you're like a group or you're like a team of some kind. So when you combine them all together, that's how you get the translated thing that they say, which is the pleasure support group, or like the delightful support club or something like that. I thought it was very cool. I didn't realize it when I was going through it, but as I've been learning more Japanese and seeing how specific words have been forming, I've been paying a lot more attention to a lot of that and just being like, oh man, there's a lot of fun wordplay here that completely gets missed by you if you don't know the language, which, you know, obviously not everyone can know the language for that, but again, I'll bring it up whenever it comes up because it always like fascinates me. So that's done with that arc, and now we'll move on to the next episode, which is going to be not a 2-parter. It has a part A and a part B to it. It is episode 292, which has for part A, which is going to be style goes out of fashion the moment it's put into words. I need to sneeze and take a drink of water. Excuse me. I ended up not sneezing, so we'll see if I end up sneezing again. But anyway, let's continue on. So this part A is like Otai is going on a shopping trip with Shinpachi because he needs to change his look. And then they both decide that they're going to help Kindoki and Kagura. So Tai and Shinpachi are off in the shopping district. Shinpachi is carrying Tai's extra clothes that she uses because she's obviously a hostess. And he complains that he only really has one outfit, which is this iconic blue and white twin striped kimono, which he wears fairly regularly to help audiences remember him because no one else remembers him other than the glasses. Otai offers to buy him some new clothes, and while Shinpachi wonders about what kind of clothes he gets, he sees that Kintoki is off shopping, going to go buy the same clothes that he always does. And as he goes to go look for clothes, he has like a whole thing with him where he's like, I need to look for something, and he sees that the shop literally has only clothes that he would wear, so it's like, who the hell would shop here? And that's when they reveal that the specific thing that he wears all the time is the school tracksuit of the Zoom Boron, which is the aliens from I think the ones that look like demons, the one that have the little like plant thing on the head as well, if you can remember all the way back. And he was like, I can't believe you've just been wearing a school outfit like that. So then they cut to Kagura, who Kagura is also off shopping to go buy her accessory, and then that's when they reveal that her accessory has actually been a jockstrap the entire time that comes from the exact same school. And then Shinpachi is horrified because they're like, we can't have our heroine wearing jockstraps. That's embarrassing. So they decide to go buy some new clothes for them. Tai decides that they should not deviate too hard from their normal look, but they should at least get some seasonal gear. And then they wonder why Gintoki like always wears a short sleeve shirt even during winter, and he always has like one of his arms out of his kimono, and they're like, is it because you think it's cool? I really hope it's not because you think it's cool. It's like, it's not because I think it's cool, and it's very clearly because he thinks it's cool. So then he gets embarrassed, so he decides to say, all right, I'm gonna go buy a new winter outfit and whatever, and he tries a long sleeve version of the black shirt that he always wears, but he completely rips it in half, and he says it feels weird without like the arm being free. Like he can't handle it. He's like, I need it to be the way it always is. Then she gives him like a cloak to wear over his short sleeves, and he ends up like coming out with no pants on. And says like, I still kind of feel weird to have things exposed. And then she says like, don't worry, maybe your new look is you out in your underwear, and then I'm gonna put this like full head hat on you. And he says like, I would not be able to take out my sword in winter wear. And then he says I should maybe keep myself warm and then he grabs one of Kagura's like headpiece ornaments, and then he puts it over his crotch, and then he ends up getting completely beat down by Kagura for it. And then after that, they decide that next is going to be Kagura, and they want to try dressing her up without having anything, her iconic like little ornament thingies on her head. So they start with putting on this cat-eared hat thingy on her. And then after she puts him, like two of the big jock straps from the aliens jut out of her head, and she says she feels incomplete without her ornaments. And then Otai gives her like a bobble thingy to tie her hair, and when she goes to go tie her hair, the thing pops out of the back of her head again. And he says that Gintoki says that since her ornaments and his bare shoulders are part of their identity, they need something to complement them, which in Kagura's case is just he ends up putting like a pair of like underwear on top of her head and saying like, now we look together. Then Shinpachi starts getting angry at them and says that I think you should just wear the clothes that you think is suitable for you. And then when they go and pick the stuff that's suitable to them, they go out in stuff that is in their usual gear that they always wear. And Otai apologizes, saying like, I'm so sorry that I tried to force you to be different for you, where you should just be happy with what you have. And if that's the way you want to dress, and that should just always be the way you dress. And then they cut to Shinpachi, who looks completely different. He's like in a suit and a hat, and he looks completely different from the other one. And then they start making fun of him for being such a hypocrite. He's like, I just wanted to look cool for one. I just wanted to look different. And then they play the new OP, which is let me find it. It's Beautiful Days, and then the ending is Beautiful Days is the opening, Glorious Days is the ending, and I guess I'll talk about those at the end when I get to the overall talking about them. But this new OP plays with Shinpachi in the new outfit, and then at the end of it, he apologizes and says, "I'll go back to my classic look next week." But I thought that was a very good bit of having him in the new outfit for the new OP. And that's part A. How do I feel about this one? Perfectly fine. I think usually me and Zen talked about this a whole bunch. There's usually one part of the part A and part B that is stronger than the other two. I think there's been like a couple episodes that we can think in our heads where both parts were equally strong. But usually what happens is that one of them is stronger than the other, and it's usually dependent wholly on the person finding it interesting. I thought it was worth it, this like little bit here, just to get the OP joke, so I liked it for that part. But for the most part, it's like pretty harmless, just like, okay, yeah, nothing bad really happened to it, but nothing that really crazy pops out at me outside of that one bit. And I also did like the tracksuit bit that I thought was pretty good. But that's basically how I feel about that. So we'll move on to part B now, which is the title of it is called "There Are Two Types of People in This World: Those Who Yell Out Their Attack Names and Those Who Don't." I need to drink water because I just remember what I'm gonna have to say. Okay, so Shinpachi is teaching a bunch of homeless dudes up until Otai shows up and says, "I got your chocolate covered macadamia nuts," and they go like, "Finally, the reason we're here, this big dumb guy thinks we're here for him," and they spit on Shinpachi. He goes like, "Man," so this takes place right after the Bean Sword style arc, and he says like, "Man, we got these new disciples, but unfortunately nobody cares about anything, and they don't care about me or my teaching. All they care about is the fucking macadamia nuts and nothing else." To make it worse, Gintoki is like, so he's like, "I can't get them at all to give me attention." So then when he goes in to go train them again, Gintoki is teaching him how to do the Kamehameha, where he's like, "This is not the turtle school, this is for swordsmanship, not that." So he says he dismisses them, and then Kyubi shows up and says, "I actually, if you had an ultimate move, I bet the hobos would be more eager to learn from you." And Kondo, who is underneath the porch, says like, "Hey, by the way, I found the scroll of your dad that your lad left behind you." He's like, "Oh, thank you." And then while they're looking at the scroll, Otai explains that, "I think our dad left behind a scroll in his later years. He was like writing it down," and she's stepping on his face as he's bleeding out profusely. But they open and they reveal the name of the technique that his dad has put down, which is the sword style, the ultimate technique of the Shinpachi family, which is the evil holy sword Let's Dancing All Night Rising Special Ultra Miracle Super Mario Brothers 2nd Edition Luigi's Counterattack Director's Cut. And as he's saying it, he says like, his name is like way too goddamn long. Like if I'm in the middle of a fight, I can't do anything with it. And they try and like put the name down, but none of it is like glasses style. This is like, that doesn't work for me either. And then while they're doing it, they're also revealing their other special techniques, which for Kyubei is it is just like the Mangakyo. I think it's they call it like the Mang, and then it's like censored Kyo Tensugan, which is supposed to be like a thing of like making, which is clearly supposed to be the Mangekyo Sharingan, but the beep is being placed in a very specific way that makes it kind of sound like they are saying just straight up vagina. So every time they say it, they go mun and then censor Kyo, and then they blowed it out. And I don't remember Kondo's, but his was like penis sword style, and he has like his giant swinging penis out when he's doing it, and that's obviously censored. And so while they're looking more into the scroll, they see there's a 4-button move layout from a fighting game style, which is I think a quarterback circle K, which is I think a kick button is what I think I remember seeing it as. They decide to go test out the technique, and while they're doing it, they get into like the style of like Street Fighter 2. Kyubey is like completely spamming their move, which is the Mangyo Tensugan. So they're just like saying it, Mangekyo Sugan, Mangekyo Sugan. They're like, this looks nothing like the move you showed a while ago. Because when they showed it originally, it was like them activating their eye, like the Sharingan, and now it's like doing like dragon punches and like on what is it called? And when one of them is like it is like a dragon punch and like doing all these other moves. It's like whatever move it's trying to do, she just says it and then like they go and do it. But as the fight continues on, they say you have to find your right meter, like the glasses meter that has to team up. And so right before Shinpachi is about to use his ultimate move, the way she also says her technique is that it's like it turns every single one of my moves into an OTKO. So no matter what, if you get hit by it, you automatically lose. It's like, this is an OP insane move. So as they're spamming it and Shinpachi's ready to go hit him with his special technique, he hits him once and then he automatically loses, and she's like, I wasn't really expecting to get touched anyway, so I'm sorry. So Shinpachi loses the fight because he's like, even touching you is enough for me to accidentally like lose. So that's sucks. Then we go to Kondo, and Kondo says, I'm going to help you out with my sword style. So then they start fighting each other, and Kondo starts spamming his dick sword technique at him, and then he gets defeated by Otai, who beats him up and throws him out. And then Kintoki goes up, and he hits him, and then Shinpachi loses because Gintoki uses his own technique against him and defeats him, and he has like the whole like, you must defeat, what is that thing from? Like, it is a direct reference from Street Fighter 2, exactly. Unless you break through my evil sword, let's dancing all night, etc., you don't stand a chance, which is like, you must be able to defeat my Shenlong, which is the quote from Street Fighter 2, if I remember right. Let me see. Street Fighter 2 Shenlong? You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance, which is them trying to translate the Dragon Fist that Ryu did, and it ended up causing this thinking that there was like Ryu's master out there of some kind. But no, it was a translation error. But anyway, let's continue on. So then Shinpachi leaves because they start revealing that not only were they able to learn his technique before he did, but they've learned counters to it, how to block it, and how to block it, and then how to block the block, and then how to block that block, and then how to block that block with a block, and then the block that blocks the block that blocks the block, there is no block for that. And then when they say that as he's walking away, QB dies. They go like, by the way, the block that blocks the block doesn't block, unfortunately. And they go down. Shinpachi's obviously bummed out to hear that this skill is insanely easy to learn. So he leaves the dojo, and he sees on the scroll that there was actually more of it. And his father talks about like, once you've learned it, you have to go to a distant land, and you need to find the ultimate combination of stuff. So he goes off looking for it, and he finds it, and he says, here, you'll find it inside the tree. You need to combine cocoa and the macadamia nut, and you'll find the ultimate combination, which is the thing he was already doing at the beginning. So after he finds it, the next day, Shinpachi says, like, I'm going to give you guys chocolate-covered macadamia nuts, and then they should continue to spit at him and hate him. And that is where part 2 ends. And yeah, if it's not obvious, I really liked part B on this one. Obviously, I'm a sucker for anything that is the fighting game related. I thought all the fighting game jokes were really funny. QB constantly spamming out their move, and every time they're saying it, it completely changes for what it was supposed to do. Like when it went from a regular like I'm trying to remember, like explain it's like a slam forward, like you jump in the air and then you slam down. That's what it started as, and then they started doing like a dragon punch and stuff like that. Absolutely killed me on that one. The reveal of the technique was also great. The evil holy sword, Let's Dancing All Night, Rising Special Ultra Miracle, Super Mario Brothers Second Edition, Luigi's Counterattack Director's Cut was really good, especially because when when their dad starts talking about the move on the scroll, he goes, "The evil sword, Let's Dancing All Night, etc." So even though he came up with the name, he wasn't bothered to actually put it all down. Cubase was just firing on all cylinders here, especially when they're doing their technique where they're like, "Oh yeah, it's like the thing from Sharingan." But that little beep there where they're like, they place it at just the right moment where you would think that it makes it sound like they're saying a completely dirty word was really funny. When they start talking about like the command grabs of like, what does this command grab mean in real life? It's like, no, you don't understand. You have to, it's the movement that you do in real life. Just like when I do when I'm going to go steal a pudding, and then Toki shows himself like stealing a pudding. And then on the other backswing, the Kagura says, or me defending my pudding. And then she like punches him out of the air when she does the reverse of it. I thought it was very good. So I think this part B was very funny. It was a good kind of continuation of something that came back from the Beam Sword style arc, which was the hobo stuff, and it was nice to see that he's still kind of training them, even though he's not having very good luck with it. And then finally, we'll talk about before I move on to the next episode, we'll talk about the OP and ED. Beautiful Days. Apparently this is done by the exact same group, if I'm remembering. If I at least I thought I saw something that said it was the same group, but let me double check on this one. So Beautiful Days, singers, Okamatsu. No, it's not. I guess it's not. But the first one is done by Akamoto, and then the other one is the singer of it, and the other one is Three Lights Down King. Hell of a name on that one. Beautiful Days I thought was really nice. I think it's a very colorful, cheery kind of pop. Really gets you into the mood of watching something. I really like the lyrical breakdown where they just say beauty, beauty, beautiful Monday, beauty, beauty, beautiful Tuesday. It's all in English. And I was like, holy shit, this is in English. I was like, wow, okay, I'll take that. That's really cool. I really like that one. I'm looking forward to hearing more of it. And then the other one, Glorious Days, I think it has that like right rock sign. So the Beautiful Days is kind of like the big cheery, colorful, like, oh my god, check this out, OP. And then the ED is like the super serious, like, nah man, I'm here fighting. This one shows, I thought was really cool, all the fight. I love this every time they do it, because this is not the first time they've done it, but he's had more fights than this. But they keep showing him through his various fights over the anime. I think that's always cool every time they do it, and I think it's a very good rockin' tune to go with it. And it especially goes well into the next episode, which I'll talk about soon. But I thought both of them are really good. Like the animation for it. It was really cool. The thing I really liked at the end of the Glorious Days ED was when, after he's showing all the opponents that he's faced, the last person that's there, Takatsuji, and then they do a clash off it. Oh, so good. I cannot wait to get to the point where they actually finally face off. I actually can't believe we're getting to the point where I might actually see Takatsuji fight Gintoki. It's been so long since the first time I saw it all those arcs ago, back in the early days. God damn, and it really has been a long time. I can't wait. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? We'll go into the final episode to talk to today, which is episode 293, which is Two Apes. So at the beginning we see a flashback where there's a child version. No, it's not a child version. It is Kid Kondo, but he calls him Isoi, which is Kondo's first name. That's how I knew it was him, even though it's funny because Kid Kondo, he's such a cuter kid. What happened to you, Kondo? You were such a cute little monkey that you turned into a full-on gorilla. Anyway, he's being disowned by his father, and then we cut back to the present where Kondo, where the father says specifically, like, you'd be nothing more than a thief or something like that. Then we cut to the present where Kondo wakes up and he's underneath the Shimura household because he fell asleep. He says that I was not stalking. I was in fact on my patrol, and I fell on patrol. So he starts to leave, and then that's when the mysterious man is there and says, like, man, you're so good at sneaking. I think we can finally find my successor. And Kondo is so shocked that he just kind of agrees in it. The next day, the Shinsengumi are investigating a robbery of a loan shark, and Hijikata says that he asked him, hey, where were you? And he's like, I was around. And then he finally tells him about this thief that is called the Ape Boy, who steals money from the extortion criminals and loan sharks and gives it back to the poor by showering them in bananas. And this is the only time we see Gintoki, because as he's giving out bananas, Gintoki picks one up and goes like, "What the hell is he doing?" And I thought it was really good. And Hijikata says is like, the monkey thief is doing a really good thing, but he's still a thief, and at the end of the day, he disrespected the law, and we're gonna have to go get him because we're cops. Kondo agrees, and the scene cuts to a few nights later at night, where he's being trained by the thief, who is by catching monkey tails in the zoo. And Kozo says that I'm very proud about the growth that you've had so far. And Kondo was like, "What did I doing? I was so shocked about this guy discovering me. I didn't want to admit that I was stalking, that I just kind of agreed to be his apprentice." But he's gonna try and tell him that he's a cop now, even though it's gonna be awkward. But before he can do that, the Shinsengumi arrive with Hijikata and so. Because they've been hearing that someone's been just like illegally breaking in here, so they both begin to escape. As he's like telling them all these different lessons, he's like, first of all, take out their lights, and then Kondo says, okay, and he throws a rock that hits Hijikata directly in the eye, and he says like, that's not what I meant by knock their lights, but I guess that works too. And then he does it again when they're like, we have to if you have to move with the sound of the sounds around you, and if you can't move with the sounds of the wind and stuff like that, you have to create your own sounds. So then he throws a rock directly at Hijikata because he was trying not to hit him, but he was saying that I need to create a diversion, right? And so he hits Hijikata square in the other eye, and the thief goes, "Oh, escaping on the sounds of your enemy's cries. I didn't really think about that, but good job." And then finally, as they're escaping, the thief tells him the final lesson, which is when all else fails, abandon your friends and everything behind you. And Kondo is like, "Oh no, I'm had it. I'm gonna get caught." And Hijikata, who has had his eyes taken out, goes to throw a grenade, but because his eyes were so bad, he throws it at a gorilla, and then the gorilla smacks it back to Hijikata. And blows up Hijikata, and then like the old man says, "Man, I really underestimated you, ape boy, because I never thought you would have trained the gorillas to sacrifice themselves for you." And then he collapses, and that's when they go to a shack, and Koza reveals that he's looking for a successor because he just doesn't have much longer to live, and he knows the last of his life is going to end with him in jail, but he wants someone to carry on his legacy, and he says that I want you to continue my legacy, and I want you to also give offerings to a specific shrine. The next day, Kondo goes to the shrine, and he sees Hijikata, and Hijikata is like telling him that you must have also followed like the ape lead here, because why else would you be here? And Kondo tries to play it off of like, oh yeah, we were both following a lead, but Hijikata reveals that I could very clearly tell it was you, Kondo, and I was trying to play along. I sure hope that you were playing along knowing that I knew it was you, because if it wasn't you, I would be really fucking angry. And he's like completely angry at him because he's had both of his eyes attacked and also blown up. And Kondo says like, oh no, I knew you knew it was me the entire time, don't worry about it. I was undercover the entire time. He's like, I was trying to not impede your undercover operation. Please tell me that you were undercover the entire time. So then an old lady appears and starts feeding all the monkeys that are around the shrine, including Kondo. And she says to them, are you the guys who have been leaving bananas and offerings to the shrine? And they say, no, we're not. And then she tells them more about like how someone has been helping to restore the shrine back to its original form after it was burned down. Back in the day, the shrine was much bigger, and it had like a temple school inside of it. And the one who was the main priest behind it was a kind old man who taught the children, including taking in a very specific problematic child, thieving child, and mending his ways. But loan sharks took advantage of the priest and took the land and kidnapped the children. And then The problem child and a few other the kids rescued the children and took the deed from the shrine, and in retaliation they burned it down. And the problem child was never seen again. And Hijikata says, well, the problem child has to be that thief. But then Kondo says, like, no, I think that was me. That kid was me, by the way. And he reveals, like, how he got into the situation that he was. He said he was a problem child due to his primate-like behavior, which was, like, trying to explain why he was in trouble. He wasn't stealing. He was in his horny age. And he was constantly getting horny by everything. And the thing he loved more than anything else was looking at radishes. Because I don't think if you've ever seen like a radish pulled from he's like, I wasn't stealing them. I was just pulling them out to look at them. If you've never looked at a radish when you pull them out from the dirt, they have like these little legs that can kind of look like, I don't know why I'm explaining this. It gives the illusion of like they have like really thick thighs. Just trust me on this if you've never seen a radish that's pulled from the dirt with the roots on it. I swear to God, sometimes it can look like that in the right settings. So yeah, he reveals that was me. I was the problematic child, and he like reunites with the old lady, and they're happy to see each other. And he says like, I know who the thief is, and it has to be Kozo, who was the priest at that time. And then it turns out that after the shrine was burned, the priest told the children not to tell Kondo what happened because he got injured and was also unconscious after he fought back to get the deed and to get back all the kids as well. Don't tell him about the fire, and he blames himself for the failures that he's done and disappears from the shrine life in general. Hijikata says that the priest must be the thief, and he's doing this to protect his shrine. And the Kondo also says like he was also trying to protect young Kondo as well. Young Kondo decided to no longer visit the shrine, and in return he will train under his dad to become stronger, because Kondo realizes, I think even when he was a kid, that the shrine, everything he tried to do, it didn't amount to anything. So at the beginning, Kondo didn't want to train under his dad, but he says like, I'll do whatever it takes if it means getting stronger and being a better person. And Hijikata gets a call that there's been another robbery. So the priests arrive and everything is empty. There's no money, but there's also suspiciously none of the loan sharks there either. And they think that the loan sharks have taken Kozo because they basically set up a trap for him, because they're all teaming up, because it wasn't only the police looking for him, it was them as well. So Kondo goes looking for him, and he finds his handkerchief, and he decides that he figures out that the thugs have caught him first, and he goes running to go find him. Back to where Kozo is with all the thugs. He's been beaten pretty bad, and they're going to plan to kill him, and at that point, Kondo shows up, and he defeats every single one of them. Before even Hijikata arrives, but then Hijikata arrives, and they said that they're going to follow him and they're going to help him out for whatever reason that he's doing. So because they're the police and they're here to pick up any criminals that are going to be doing whatever. So they stop them. And then Kondo goes to Kozo to help him, and he reveals that he knows who he is. Like, Kozo always knew that was Kondo. And he says that he's been proud that you've been able to honor my teachings and everything. But Kondo says to him specifically, as he's like going up there, not knowing that he is who he is, I'm sorry I couldn't follow your third rule, which was leave behind your allies when things look bad. He says, I couldn't do it. I'm a terrible student. And he tells him, no, you are a wonderful student. And he says, like, I guess this is it. This is the end for him. So I need you to put me in cuffs and put an end to this. And as he passes away, Kondo puts him in cuffs, which are his hands, as he holds his hands as the old man passes away and dies. And he says, these are some extremely warm cuffs. And then sometime later, then the ED comes in. So as this like scene is playing out and the old man dies in Kondo's hands, or near Kondo, however you want to say that specific thing. And the ED plays a little bit, and then as it goes near the end of the episode, the Anime comes back and it reveals that someone has been leaving behind money and banana offerings, and the kids are trying to figure out who's doing it. And Kondo looks from behind and smiles as he says he looks on and he kind of walks away, and as he walks away, the old lady smiles and looks at a statue and says, "You're finally home." And you see a monkey statue that looks like the old man in his thief outfit, smiling down at the shrine. And then they cut to Kondo, who is like walking down the steps, and as he's walking down the steps, they go out to a field and the episode ends. And that is episode 293. All right, I got through it. You can't be breaking down now, Wokey. You're the only one here. I really like this episode. This is a fucking fantastic episode. I think this shows off the beauty of Gintama in multiple ways. This shows off not only in terms of storytelling, but in terms of what they can do with the characters that they have. I think it's fair to say a lot of animes kind of pride themselves in the characters that they have and loving their side characters. And sometimes it can feel like the side characters themselves can have as much attention. They occasionally rise up to the occasion to have a fight of some kind. But very rarely does it really amount to very much where they have like an entire thing focused on them like this. And the fact that this episode is given to Kondo, of all people, who up until this point, I remember, go back to the early days of Shonen Archive where I said specifically, I can't wait for the episode where Kondo gets kind of taken seriously, and this is that episode. And it's here for 22 minutes, and they do it in a perfect amount of time. That's the perfect story of revealing not only a little bit of his past, showing a specific side of him of why he chose to go down the Shinsengumi, why the Shinsengumi follow him at all when you see him as the normal person that he is, which is typically a stalker mode and stuff like that. What he actually is a person who is deeply caring about a lot of the friends he's made, even though he is the way that he is, which is a dumb little monkey fuck a gorilla with like no tact at all, nothing like that. But even he still sees the value in the friendships and protecting those around him, and the fact that at a very early age he tried to do it and he failed, and he realized that he needed to be better than what he currently is because he could never solve it the way that he was at that time, which was the little thieving boy, and he had to grow up and become the hardened person that he is. And the moment that they actually gave him where he's like fighting off every single one of them, because they could have very easily made it so where Kondo like gets help from the Shinsengumi and the all out there, but no, he straight up solos every single one of them, and it's an extremely good beatdown of all of them. Like, he even uses the technique that he learned from him, which is like hit him with the shadows and stuff like that, use sounds to distract them, like using the teachings that he learned in such a fantastic fucking way. And then just for him to use all of that, and for him to have the moment with his old man where he says like, "I'm sorry I couldn't follow all your teachings, I could never do your third one, which is abandoning you," is it's so good. It's such a, this is like the way you would do an episode like this, I would say. And maybe it's also because it's, I think probably if you look in the grand scheme of a lot of the episodes that we've had like this of Gintama, I think this one episode, even though it's as fantastic as it is, would be the highlight of any other anime. But for Gintama, it's just another in the line of very well done ones. And I think that's an amazing fucking feature to have on your anime. It still surprises me, even 293 episodes in. It's crazy to me how well done that this can be done. So another thing, I guess I'll talk about some of the jokes, because not only can this an arc like this exist where Kondo is able to hold in his hands his loved one as they pass away from him, and then look on into the monkey statue and be very happy about it. There are some actual jokes in here. One of the good ones that the kids say at the end, it goes like, "I don't think it's an ape that's leaving," because the kids are saying like, "Is it a monkey?" It's like, "I don't think it's a monkey." The woman is smiling knowing that it's Kondo, but she tells him like, "I don't think it's them." It's like, "Oh my god, what is it? Is it the Saiyans?" Saiyajin, which is the Saiyans. I thought that was good. A lot of the jokes of Kondo and Ishigata fucking killed me when he hit him in the eye directly, and he hit him again. And the giant gorilla with the swatting the grenade. I thought that was really well done. Hijikata's anger at him when he's like, I can't believe. I sure hope that you were undercover and you weren't just fucking murking me for no fucking reason. He's like, no, trust me on this, trust me on this, trust me on this. That was really good. Yeah, a lot of the brief cameo of Gintoki as he like holds the banana and just kind of gets annoyed of like, what is this banana doing here? Was really good. Yeah, really good episode. A happy one to end it off on. So that is it. Also, Okita does not show up in this episode, which I was surprised at, but I guess they didn't really need him for this one. He usually shows up in any of the Shinsengumi episodes, but I guess they figured, again, I think I've said before that Gintama does a very good job of selecting the exact right characters that it needs for any given story to tell. And I think for this one, they probably realized they didn't need Okita because Okita would have probably given more, would have needed a little bit more jokes, more things to say. But it's like, listen, if we just bear this down to what we need for one episode, which is you need Kondo, Hijikata will be perfectly fine as someone on the Shinsengumi side. We don't need to add in that he also is trying to hide this from Okita at that exact moment or whatever, and do jokes that way. Just perfectly fine the way it is, and gotta go from there. I think it works out perfectly fine. But that's episode 293, and we will. That's another 4 episodes down in the books. So what are we likely doing for? I say next week, but every single time I've said next week since I've started this solo run through from Gintama, I have not been able to follow that fucking at all. So I'm going to knock on wood. It's mainly due to my work. But either a week or 2 weeks from now, I will attempt to do the following episodes, which are going to be the Afro arc, which is episodes 294 to 295, the Feigned Illness arc, which is episode 296 to 297, and then I'm also going to have to do episode 298 and 299. The reason is that I need to do these 6 batch of episodes because the next episodes afterwards are are episode 300 to 307, which is the Shogun assassination arc, and then right after that is the Farewell Shinsengumi arc. So I have about 1 episode left to get all these in. I don't really want to do an episode where it's like, I know usually we do 5, but I think 6 is good enough for it to do it, just because in this specific, that's why I'm also saying it might take a week or 2, just because it is 6 episodes, and those are a little bit harder for me to kind of like sit down and record for doing it. And then I don't know how long it will take for me to record for Shogun assassination arc, but this thing is way too many episodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes. And then the one that's afterwards, which is Farewell Shinsengumi, is I believe also 8 episodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. My bad. Oh boy. But I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. But you're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. So now we get to the ending portion of the show where I say, thank you very much for watching, everyone. I appreciate it a whole bunch. I appreciate you guys waiting for it. If you want to show support for the show, the best thing that you can do is leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But don't worry, Shonen Archive is never going anywhere, because Fate Grand Order is the main thing that kind of carries my channel. But to be honest, a lot of people do care about Shonen Archive, and it's enough for me to always remember to kind of keep doing it. That's why I always feel bad whenever I miss a week when I say that there's going to be a week, because I really do want to keep doing Shonen Archive related things and keep pushing forward with so many stuff, that's for sure. But yeah, we if you want to, that's the one way you can do it. You don't have to feel the need for it, but I would really greatly appreciate it if you did. And if you want to feature more stuff featuring me, you're already on the channel. This bit of it here, it gets a little bit awkward when I don't have like, hey, if you want some more Zen stuff, go to Zen. I'm only here, so if you want more Wokey stuff, you could simply go on here. If you only are interested in Shonen Archive stuff, there's literally like 109 damn episodes. There's about like 50 something of the Gintama ones, but if you include all the series we've done, it's over 100, and that's not also including the Shonen Archive Gaidens, which are the more casual kind of like, hey, let me talk about this series stuff that I do. I should really get back to one of those, but I was like writing a script for those. Those are actually like, I'm trying to make those more script based, so I'm just like doing stuff with that. But anyway, and yeah, so it's time to end the show, and you know what that means. I get to shoot someone. So one of the new things I've done is that usually how I did the first of all, that sounds really bad when I say it's time for me to shoot somebody. But the way we typically ended the show is that I would say goodbye, and then I would shoot Zen in the face digitally, not real. Through the power of movie magic, it sounded like it was real, but it's not. But while Zen is gone, I still want to end it that way, so I'm going to start taking names from people who leave comments, either the current one or I go back in time and look for one of them, whichever one of them. And I will say goodbye to them. So I have the person that we got here for today. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. And now it's time to say goodbye. Say goodbye, Dark Shadow FF1. Whoa, how do you say this name? Say goodbye, Dark Shadow FF1IK. I'm sorry for saying that name so wrong. The one IK really fucked me on this one. I know it's Dark Shadow, but the FF1, I'm going to end the episode. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.